Yeah, that's nice. Okay. And we're recording, yes. Okay. I hope you guys don't mind that I'm recording. Our gallery was like, you should record it, and then we'll put it on the website. And I'm like, great, we're marketing. So that's awesome.
Speaking of which, sorry. I said I'd take a picture, so
yeah.
This is mine.
Doing it.
Everything for media, here we go.
You guys have Instagram? Who has Instagram? Everybody. Oh, actually, some of you don't. Good for you. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to show you guys kind of how I approached wanting to be in a gallery and making art like a full-time career. And this is kind of stuff that if I was in your position, I wish I would have had this when I was in university. So, quick little bio. I grew up in Kelowna. I did a gap year in Austria, which was fun, it's fine. Then I went to UBC, majored in film, minored in creative writing. I thought I wanted to be like a writer-director, and then I worked on set, and I realized I don't want to be around people for like 13 hours a day. So I really like painting because you're just in your studio mostly, but you do have to network a little bit. But film is heavy networking, so I found out that wasn't for me. And then VCAD, I did like a 3D animation program for a year, and that's where I got all my like technical drawing. But I quit because it eventually became about computers and like game design, which I love gaming, but like I don't like computers, so that was not for me. And throughout just like crappy minimum wage jobs, which I know you guys can all relate to, and that really like giving an impetus to like not do those jobs forever. So then COVID happened, CERB happened, I was able to like quit or be let go or whatever the technical term would be of like my retail job, and I got to just like focus on making work to like put in a gallery, and then I got in a gallery, so that's nice. UBC, it's probably super similar to like what you guys are doing now. A lot of theory that I still use today if I'm like thinking about like why I'm doing something. I think it's really important and like holistic to get a lot of different, like I took philosophy courses or whatever you're taking to like apply to your practice. And then principles of composition, it was more theoretical than hands-on, I have to say, despite we did our like little student films, but heavy theory. The importance of audience opinion I think is interesting, especially in film, because you would like test for like what resonates with audiences in order to like, it's very businessy. And in something like creative writing that I minored in, you weren't as concerned with like what an audience like takes away from it, or if they're even relating to it. Like there's this kind of mythos around like the author of the work. And I think it's important to hold those two things at the same time, because you need to make a living, but you need to do what you love. And yeah, make a lot of good friends in university. That's good. VCAD, yeah, the technical drawing, the animation, which actually like really helped inform my work, because I do a lot of like swoopy kind of like exaggerations of nature. And I'm thinking of like, I don't know if you guys do any animation here.
There is aspects of animation, yes.
Yeah.
But a full-on. Yeah.
We do 3D animation.
Oh, you do? Okay, nice.
We had traditional cell animation, but I think we lost that instructor, so I don't think
We did like the traditional cell animation before I left the program, and we did like bend and stretch stuff, and like I love 2D, so that was a really good like, I don't know, skill that actually like helped later, and I didn't know how it would help. VCAD was really expensive. It's one of those like privatized universities that's like very for profit when you get in there, so I would not like recommend it overall, but like it was a very expensive way to get like life drawing courses. Yeah, it's important I think to like cultivate other aspects of your life, which I know this is like maybe a given, but if you kind of get to narrow into like painting or like what you're doing, then you kind of don't see the rest of the world. So like these crappy jobs, or like I wanted to be so many different things before I wanted to be a painter. Yeah, like director, writer, as I said. I thought, oh, graphic novelist maybe. I tried like music for like 6 months. Like, I don't know, I think it's important to try a a lot of stuff that you guys get to do here, so that's really nice. Yeah, it just teaches you some basic skills that you know. You have to show up on time, you have to be like easy to work with. I'll talk a little bit more about working with the gallery on another slide, but yeah. So this is where I started working on the style. This is like fun stuff now. Yeah, CERB covered my living expenses, so I was just really able to focus on stuff. And you can see I am a huge fan of Kim Dorland. I'm sure Chris probably talked to you about him. He's like probably my favorite painter ever. He got me like into wanting to paint. So you can see like the fluorescence, and like I tried to do impasto. I'm really bad at impasto. Like just trying stuff out, and I was focusing more on landscape because I'm looking at the galleries and what sells in those galleries, and it's a lot of landscape here because we're Western Canada and that's what we're known for. So it's like keeping that business mindset kind of in the back of your mind, but then like making something new that speaks to you. So these were like just early ideas, and then I was working out of my little basement suite, which I know people who use that as an excuse, like I don't have a studio, I can't make work, and that's not an excuse. You have any square footage in your like living space, that's your studio. Yeah, you can look at other artists for inspiration, other disciplines for sure. I probably know more about music than I know about painting because I'm just like a nerd for music. So like that's cool. I think you like can bring that into what you're doing. And then always keep your costs low so that you have room to fail, because you're not gonna get it the first time or the first 10 times. And you don't want to be like trying to do something good because you don't have the resources to fail. I think that's really important. I'm gonna like rip through this.
All good.
This is my first application in, I think, the beginning of 2020. I love sci-fi and stuff, so I was trying to do these like sci-fi, cloud, abstract, like planets, and I thought the like, these things are like castles or something weird. Yeah, I thought they were good, my friends thought they were good, my family thought they were good. No gallery wanted to take these. And that was like, it's a really good lesson because you're gonna try a lot of times to get into a gallery and you're gonna fail a lot of times. So I learned in retrospect that if you're doing abstract, you kind of have to have a little bit of a CV or like some other shows or something to your name. And I was like kind of fresh out of just like, all I had was like a bachelor of film. So like, why should we entertain this, you know? Yeah, that was just the first kind of attempt. And then I was like, okay, back at it, back to the landscapes. And this is the 4 paintings I applied with to maybe 4 or 6 galleries in Vancouver, just like cold emails basically. And I had done the same ones with the abstracts previous, had no responses, and then luckily Ian Tan, the gallery we're both in, liked these ones enough to like see them. You need consistency across, like they have to see that you're going to be able to produce more of these. So there's like the kind of watercolor, like I just really water the acrylics down on the background. Discovered I like that because I like the experimentation. And I like to use a big brush, so I did that with like here, and then you get kind of like the spine of the piece. It's like a kind of a filmy term to think about it as, but like, and then I would go in and kind of like fill in the gaps to make it look like something is how I approach it. So I kind of go really abstract in the beginning to kind of, you get rid of that fear of like, it's a blank canvas, and then you can like, almost like doodle, or like make the rest, would be like how I describe how I paint, at least for these ones.
What scale are these tests?
Yeah, they're all like 3x4-ish. I think those are all 3x4, and then this was 40x40. And oh yeah, so I should mention, my mom is an artist in Kelowna. So I grew up and she made pottery, and then now she's doing paintings more so, but I grew up and she supported us with her art as a single mom. So that was like, I really got to see like how an artist survives and sort of the like financial hits and wins that you have to take in that. And like it's a lot of gambling on yourself, but also it kind of informed how to like approach a gallery. She's really like good about the business side of things more so, but she's like didn't go to school for it or anything. So we kind of like even each other out a little bit. Like I have like the academics and she does like the business kind of mind. So that really helped guide me, and she was like, if you don't do anything smaller than 3x4, because you can't sell them for that much and you are not going to be able to make a living selling these tiny little things, especially when you start out, because you're going to barely break even the first year at least of any business, because it's hard and people don't know your name yet. So yeah, that's like a little bit of the business stuff, as well as just like, yeah, how I came up with this. Still very like Kim Dorlandy, I think. Like I think my bio even has his name in it, because of like the fluid lines and like the really saturated colors. Yeah, we'll stay on this one for a while. So this is an evolution of my style from when I started. That was the first piece I ever sold. And then these ones I just made for Whistler like a week ago. And this style here was like the first year. And it was very like, almost looked like woodcut-y, or like you could screen print it on a t-shirt, like not a lot of blending. And I felt really like safe doing that, because you can like mess up and you can just like wait for the acrylic to dry and go over it again. And I thought a little bit, I think, too much about the practicality of the style, in that I was like, okay, I have to be able to make something good in like under a week. If I make a mistake, I want to be able to cover over it. And like it would be a huge risk that I took at the end when I'm starting to get more comfortable with like a big brush going in at the end, and you can like totally mess it up if you mess up the brushwork. So like, I think it's a lot of like managing yourself and your own mindset and trying to make something good at the same time. And I was still learning. I'm like always learning about how the acrylics work. If I want to use like, if I want to wait till it dries, or if I want to like do it when it's wet. Like this one, the background was wet blue, and then I took a big brush with the pink, and it makes it kind of more translucent. But then this one I like waited until it totally dried, and obviously the paint's really like opaque over that background, right? So, and then that was the first year. I kind of felt bored with that style. I love those pieces still, but like, I don't know, you're gonna get bored, and that's a really good thing, because you want to evolve, right? So, summer of last year, I did like this piece, and I was like, oh my god, I love this. That's probably my favorite piece I've ever done, is that one, so I should have kept it, but oh well. And that style is more fluid, there's more blending. I don't know, you can't really go back as easily in these styles. Like once you kind of finish a section, you can't really touch it, because it's all interwoven and interconnected. So there's a little bit more of a like, you kind of have to be okay with what you've just done, and that kind of like makes me a little nervous, but I think you can make great work. Also, I'm doing like the big brush work, and that can go a little wrong if like, you know, you're not paying attention. So yeah, and then you start adding things. Like I learned how I wanted to do a fern, and that's like very iconic to like Vancouver. So you just add your little things, and then these are totally different again. Still kind of keeping that consistency of style throughout, because I think it's inherent in like what you're doing. You're not gonna like escape yourself totally. So I wouldn't worry too much about like trying to maintain a style. That'll happen naturally, but like evolving it is probably important. Okay, we can come back to this if we need to. A lot of lost pieces. Like I would say one of two, or like, yeah, one. Like and it's mostly like me against me. Like it's like a mindset. If I can't see like the next step, then I get really like down on myself, and I just rip it off, and I'm probably too quick to rip it off. But I think it's kind of good to be a little bit hard on yourself, because all your friends and family are gonna think every piece kind of the limiter in that. I mean, your gallery always is gonna be, they're gonna tell you what's up, but like, I think having a strong sense of like what you like and holding yourself to a standard is like important. If I had all the money in the world, I would buy every one of you this book. This is the book to end all books for creativity. It just came out like last year. Rick Rubin, who produced some of the best music ever, just like a psychic Buddha, like creativity. So, highly recommend that. But yeah, I think.
Is it The War in Art?
Oh, that's another really good book too, but it's this
Oh.
one, The Creative Act.
What's it called?
The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Yeah. This one's really good for creative block, but this is just more about like general kind of approach to art and about all kinds of art. I mean, we're all trying to get to like that flow state of like, you know, the next move while you're doing this move. It's like the feeling that I think we're all chasing when we're trying to do any form of art. And I think so much of my practice is like, how do I get myself ready to like get there? And you know, you have to like take care of yourself because you're the small business. You're the thing that like makes all these things. So I do like yoga, I bike to my studio every day. Like, it's just making sure your like mindset is like ready to accept the flow when it happens. And I know that's like woo woo, but I don't know, that's how I think of it. I think that's helpful. So, oh yeah, and don't take yourself too seriously, take the work seriously. If you like put all your self-worth, which I tend to do, into what you're making and it fails, because it's gonna fail, you are gonna be in a slump, and that's literally what creates artist block, which I had for like the past month and a half. So yeah, it's knowing yourself and how to get yourself out of those mind states and be ready to like just make good stuff. So yes, as I mentioned, Kim Dorland, huge inspiration. But I like a lot of things. I'm like I love anime. I'm such a nerd. Gaming, podcasts. Helps that when you're painting, you can have like a podcast on or music on or whatever. I was listening to, I think it was like a Big Think podcast where they were like, genius comes from like taking something from different disciplines and like fusing it together and making something new. So I think the most creative people I know are interested in a lot of different things. Just find out like what you like and why you like it. Super important. Like if I'm looking at it, I think, so Kim's use of like color and like his shape have kind of bled into my work subconsciously. And if I think about anime, it's a lot of like waveform that you see in that's like really luscious and big, and then I use a lot of like waveform in my work, so that's kind of like let in of its own accord. And I don't know if any of you play Bloodborne, but like it's just the most beautiful thing I've ever seen, and I could talk to you for an hour about it, but like it's shiny and like it's all just like iridescent gothic, but it's made by a Japanese studio, and like I want to live in that world. And I think when I'm making a landscape, that's what I'm doing, is I'm trying to make a world I want to live in. Kind of escapist right now, at least is how I think about work. This is kind of the only podcast I could put on that like wouldn't be controversial, but I listen to a lot of podcasts, and comedians have a really similar like come up to artists, and they really are really candid about talking about like getting past at the Comedy Store, and like you can relate all these things to your own discipline. And I think it helps that it's not art, because then you're not trying to like mimic anything, like you're just taking the general tools of like trying to make it in like a very it's not a straightforward career, right? You're not a doctor, you don't like go to med school and go like, here are the steps. Like everyone is gonna have their own little like way of doing it. So this is what I wish someone had told me when I was in your position, if any of you want to get into a gallery. So I had to do a Kendall collage, because I love Kendall, from Succession, if you guys watch that. But yeah, and you can see this on like a gallery's website when you're applying. Usually it's like 4 to 6 pieces, consistent style, consistent size, like we saw with like what I applied with. Think like a gallery owner. Does it like work with what's already in the gallery? It like pretend it's your business, and would you want to like accept you to like make money off of, basically. Yeah, listening and reading about successful people is huge. I love like the like biography, like movies and podcasts and everything. The Laws of Human Nature is a book that helped me a lot with like business. Because I think as an artist, you're super delicate. You want to believe the best of people, and it's like, it's really nice to be that way, but you also have to like hold at the same time that like people are out for different things in life, and to be wary of like business and stuff. So, and just how like human nature works. So I'd recommend that one if you want to like toughen yourself up a little bit for negotiations. And yeah, when I applied to the galleries, I didn't really ask to like show in the gallery. I was more interested in critique. Because I think it's like you're not coming off as you're like trying too hard or anything. It's just like a softer approach, and then you know, you might get lucky and they actually do want you in the gallery. So kind of a nice little ease in. You need to be easy to work with. I've heard so many stories about artists who have amazing, amazing work, but their demands are like crazy, and the gallery's like, I don't have like the mental space to deal with you. So that's important. The myth of like a troubled artist walking in and like not knowing like what's up is like kind of bullshit. Just, you have to look successful and look like you know what you're doing, pretend a little bit, but be genuine. Yeah, like if you would trust you, basically. Yeah, they can help you price. I started out really low because you just want it to move, so you want to make more work. Yeah, don't be precious. Don't be precious about anything. If they like give you pieces back, I got pieces back in the beginning because they weren't good enough, and then they weren't good enough. Like I was trying to do fluorescence like Kim Dorland, and people like, they burn your eyes because it was so bright orange, and like I get it, and that was a good learning thing for me. So yeah, you have to be good to work with. Yeah, do stuff for free because it's fun. I did just stuff for my friends like Instagram, who's like a piercer, and my friend is a musician, and I helped him with band t-shirts. And I like wanted to do like illustration when I first started, but I was like, I don't know how to make money at like illustration. I don't know, like that seemed like kind of nebulous to me, but I still like doing it on the side, and then I get to do whatever I want because it's not like my income, so that's nice. Yeah, basically said that. And have fun. It's, yeah, kind of what I said with the flow state thing. Like if you are miserable, people will tell in your work that you're miserable. You have to like what you're doing, which is like so hard when it becomes what you're doing to like support yourself. So that balance is really challenging, and I think it's what I'm still like working on. But yeah, I don't know, you gotta do it, and then it's really fulfilling. It's really great to just be able to like wake up and go to my studio every day. Like I can't ask for more. So yeah, I'm not quite at half an hour, I don't know. There we are. That's all I have for you. I don't know if you guys have questions.
Do you want to go back to the work slide?
Yeah, it might be good, right? Yeah.
I just have a bit of a question on, I mean, it being like your job, so you have to, if you start, you have to have an income. But I love to play video games and watch stuff too.
Yeah.
What I find myself doing is I'll sketch a wanted to go watch something or play a video game. So how do you have like that same problem, or do you see things to the end quite frequently?
That's interesting. I think in my nature, I'm usually a C to the end person. Like dropping out of VCAD was really actually hard for me because it was like, oh, I'm not completing this thing that I like kind of set out to do. But I think if you're not getting past the sketching stage, maybe you're not like interested enough in what you're doing. Like I'm always like, I can't wait to see it done. And if you don't have, I can't wait to see it done, then maybe you don't like it enough. And like, I don't know if it's your subject matter or maybe like your medium, maybe you want to change like how you're drawing. Do you draw like with a pencil and paper or iPad?
Digitally, which also makes it really hard because my computer's I'm drawing on a tablet and then video game.
Oh.
Do that. But,
Yeah.
I do want to see it to the end, but drawing programs, there's so much you can do with them. You can look at blur effects, and stamps, and copy paste things, all this, and I'm like, wow, this would look so cool if it's done. But my brain is gonna explode. So I'm gonna go do something else. And so I always have that problem of just beginning and never ending. But all of your pieces, you have to put them in the gallery. You have to end them.
Yeah.
Be satisfied with them. So.
That's a really great question. I think it's like something a lot of people struggle with. There was this like Russian composer, I'm gonna forget his name, but he had everybody at a dinner party like write an instrument on a piece of paper, and then he'd like, or no, he wrote the instruments on a piece of paper and put them in a hat. And then he'd pick them out and say, okay, I can only compose a whole piece of music with like a trombone and a, I don't know, whatever. Give yourself limitations is like the point of that. And then you won't feel so overwhelmed by all the decisions. Like that was a huge part of like when I was in my little like artist block stage recently, was like, I'm trying to make something new and there's just like so many things I could do. Like I just was like, okay, you can only use like 2 sizes of brush or something. Like
That sounds really fun, actually.
yeah, and it'll make you more creative.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helps.
It kind of does, actually.
I completely, now that I think about it, do you want to go to the inspiration slide?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, because what a lot of what I'm asking you as a class to do is basically test. We didn't talk about this, and yeah, I think it's really important to include it because with our mini proposals, where I'm like, okay, how are you starting to think about being creative with this project? And something like this is very disparate. It's not like linear in any way, and I think I just want to reinforce that is, you know, you brought up a really good idea about what genius is, where you have, you know, how many different things can you compile to put something in the world that hasn't existed. So for instance, talent is, I see a target, and talent, I can hit that target. Genius is to aim at something that doesn't exist. That's the tough thing where we're talking about when it comes to art. We already have a whole history of things that have existed. You're inspired by all these things that are uniquely you in this moment. How do you look at, you know, Bloodborne going, you know what, that is shiny, that is an environment that I want to live in, and maybe I want to make work for that space. So that's in your head. At the same time, like landscape, you're also looking at other inspirations. So when you put together, a wall that inspires you, this is why I'm asking you to be specific about it. What is it about Bloodborne that you connect to, that could transition into how you look at your work? Or even with, you mentioned music, and the idea of flow state. When you're painting, like, I know because I will offer a year with sabbatical, and normally we talk about flow state in Painting 1. Some of you have done Painting 1 with me online, where we talk about Jackson Pollock. Finding that space where to be in this absolute creative space, you're thinking of nothing else. It is music that's coming out of your body. And to find that when you're working, you lose track of time. But like music is like, how do I do something where I know what's coming next and I don't have to like be so, fingers tight and kind of figure out where it goes. And you have to give yourself that permission. So, being in the studio and going, okay, I'm finding my headspace to be in here so that I know flow can exist while I'm here. But sometimes it's like, it's work to get into the studio, isn't it?
Yeah.
How often are you in the studio on a weekly basis?
Oh, I should have talked about this. I get this question a lot. I kind of keep almost like a 9 to 5 Monday to Friday schedule for myself, roughly. If there's something exciting, I can always like take a Wednesday and make it a Saturday or something. But you need to be like going at like kind of roughly the same time and like get like a routine down. So it's like almost like your body knows, okay, it's like time to work. And then when I take time off on like the weekends, I don't feel guilty about it, because when you're your own business, you could be working all the time, and it's really hard to like feel like you're allowed to take breaks. So that's just how I kind of like rate it in.
There's again, I'm lucky to know Fiona Ackerman, who basically had the same thing. Like, we've all worked jobs. Like, my first job was at McDonald's. Like, I know what it's like to work these jobs because you appreciate what you have and you know what it takes to do the work. Fiona is a perfect example of, like, she worked 21 hours in retail or at a restaurant so that she can be in that studio for the remaining of the time in the week. So you understand how precious that time is. And that's extremely important. Like music, Eminem, right? Like 9 to 5. I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna work. If he's collaborating with someone shows up later, hey, see you tomorrow.
I didn't know that about
Yeah, he's
him.
a 9 to 5.
Oh, cool.
It's like, he's famous for like people showing up, like at the end of the session, he's like, all right, I'm here to do this. He's like, see you tomorrow. It's like, but I'm here now. It's like, I'm on a clock. I got a family. I got things. Like, that's your schedule, not my schedule.
Yeah.
But you put a 9 to 5, you get that 40 hours a week. You know what it's like to grind.
Yeah. Cause, yeah, I don't know, it's just like a responsibility thing. It's like, if I don't make enough work that I like, I don't get to pay my rent, or then I have to go work like a serving job. And like the fear of having to work a serving job, it looms over me constantly. So, yeah.
With my experience with some of your inspirations, like serial experiments, something that a lot more, I find that they were like quite conceptually dense.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering if, like we were talking about like flow state, when you maybe look back on the work that you made, do you read into it some of the concepts maybe that you feel inspired by, or do you feel like after that you feel the need maybe to include that in, say, like an art statement, or do you feel like you want to ground it in a concept, or did you find that you needed to ground it in a concept earlier before you started the work?
Yeah, okay, this is a big question, great question. When I was in creative writing, there was like 3 ways of approaching like a new project, and one was like coming from concept. You come from concept, or do you like build the characters first, or like how do you start? The hardest is to come from concept. Like, I'm mostly inspired visually by all these things. The really dense concepts of like, yeah, Bloodborne or Lane they kind of keep me going. It's like, that's why I progress through those like bodies of work. And they're so integral to like who I am as a person. I'm sure it comes out somehow in my work, but mostly it's visual. Because I find like if you apply meaning on your work, like that's not always gonna like translate. That's kind of for critics to say it means this or to them or whatever, and I don't like telling people what it means. Like, it should be not obvious, but like people should make their own like concept of like your work. I said that not great, but yeah, I'd say I'm mostly taking like visual tips and like almost like feelings of like if I'm in a certain environment or I'm like, I just want it to feel like the Forbidden Woods or like, I don't know, the caves or something. So yeah, I think starting from concept is really hard, but it could make something great. You can all do your own thing.
You kind of mentioned a week to make a painting. Is that kind of your goal, is like to get something done in that week time that you've given yourself?
I'm so, like, I know so many people work on so many pieces at once. I'm like very like, if I'm into something, I'm just gonna do it to death, and I maybe have 2 going at once. If that's as many as I have. Also, my studio is really tiny, so like things can't really be wet at the same time. But yeah, if I get going on one of the pieces, I kind of just want to see it done. I'm like pretty like focused, to my detriment or my benefit, I don't know. But a week turnaround is kind of a good thing to have in my brain. And some of them take 2 weeks, some of them take 3 days. Like, it's just to kind of keep myself again on like a regiment of like, you need to make 3 a month to supply your galleries kind of thing. So they're like arbitrary laws that you can break, but keep yourself reined in a little bit. I'll go here just because we already, yeah.
Do you find it like difficult
stop, take a break, and then restart again. Because like you mentioned, you like to get things, like to see it done.
Yeah.
For me, it's like, I don't like working in sessions. I like to like work on it to completion, or like at the very most take a couple days. Like do you find it hard to stop like for a session and then continue? Or?
Yeah, totally. I used to like, I'm still working on taking breaks, cause like I do just wanna like, if it's going well, you just wanna sit down and like, lose track of time or just like see it done. If I'm stuck, I will take a break. I think that's, if you kind of, if the next steps are flowing and they're coming to you, that's the time to sit and like work as long as that's coming, because you don't know when that's gonna stop. But if you're stuck and I'm looking at something and I just don't know what to do, it's a great time to save it for tomorrow and then look at it, the next day. Yeah, and then that's why I have two going, so I can kind of, if I haven't worked that much that day, I can like switch to the other one.
My question was kind of the same, just if you did your painting within 3 days, for the rest of the week, do you just give yourself a breather, or are you already onto the?
No, I still work. Yeah, I'm just like, I got one. Let's do more. There is like, after, cause my studio is so small, I'll like drop them all off at the gallery, and then there's no finished paintings around me, and that's like probably not good for my psyche. So I should be like having one done overlap so that I feel like I'm okay. Cause if I'm in there and there's nothing done, I'm like, So yeah.
It is important too, just like when I give you the projects, I have a time kind of commitment that I'm asking you to do. Just, it depends on when you do it, and everyone works differently, right? Like you put yourself in the space, like I'm training myself to be 9 to 5, or in students' case, and let's be honest, I've done it too. When is it due? Okay. And then you pull an all-nighter, get a pot of coffee going and make it happen. But this is also kind of the time and place to find your limits and find out when you work best. My expectation is that I want to see a time commitment, because that's ultimately going to give you a result. Because you're forced then, if you can do something quickly, you're forced then to ask questions of it. And that's kind of what we're going to be doing with the critique, is can we ask questions of the piece to see if we can find, that window that that, hey, I know myself, I know I can get this done in this period of time. And then also when you're kind of like, you're out there and you have to do the work, maybe talk about just what that feels like as being kind of a studio artist going, okay, I'm in the production space. Like, how much do you pre-plan your work?
Oh man, this is probably not good for anybody to hear. I like don't sketch. I find, I'll just have like a picture that I'm working from, that's like my inspiration, and I'll just go right in with like, again, like more kind of, even on the pieces, like, even on these where I'm like not leaving much of the background like untouched anymore, like it still gives me like, there's a bunch of brushwork under here that it was crap that I covered up, but like I saw the good ones and that gave me like a guide for the rest of the piece, and that's like just kind of how, so I guess I sketched like under the piece kind of, but they move more that way for me. If I like sketched it out first and then I was reproducing a sketch, it would feel really stunted, and that's just, and then there's a lot of layers of mistakes under these too. So like, as much as like it seems like I'm skipping a step, I feel like I'm maybe sketching like 3 times over a piece, but it's like each time the color gets a little better, it gets a little tighter, and then like, I like it. Yeah, did that answer the question, or
Yeah.
how much I prepare? Yeah.
I didn't have an answer in mind, but yeah, but maybe talk about your inspiration that you're working with in terms of, you said you have a photo that kind of starts the process for you.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you go out into the world and seek, or does it just kind of find you and you're like, I'm keep this in my pocket for later?
Yeah, honestly, like, I'm on Instagram and Tumblr and like all those things, and like I have a huge saved file of like, I'll sometimes work from like other people's photos. Like if I do that, it'll be a combination of like my photos and their photos, but like it's usually my photos. And yeah, I'm just looking for like a composition that I like. The colors obviously do their own thing. It's simplified. Like I think something where I get stuck a lot is you look at a picture of like Vancouver nature and there's like a billion ferns and a billion sticks and you could sit there forever and try to get all the sticks in. And like the creative process for me is about almost like I like blur my eyes and kind of like try to like out of focus the picture a little bit and see like what I like about the composition in order to make something that is like a simplified, more like intentional like piece of art than just like a lot of nature. Like don't just reproduce your inspiration, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, like that's part of the process anyway. Or maybe you just do a lot of heavy technique and it is just a reproduction. That's okay too if you're whatever you're trying to do. Yeah, I think you had a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering, with such a like fast-paced back-to-back schedule, do you ever deal with like burnout, like feeling you don't wanna keep creating, and if so, how do you deal with that?
Definitely. I think for me, switching disciplines is important. I have like a little like DJ deck at like my basement suite, and I like do that, and that's like a totally different creative outlet that is whatever I want to do. I don't like stream it or anything, and like I think having those little things that you do and you can kind of feel satisfied, or even like the work that I showed that was more illustrative, if you can feel like good about something you did and then it's not for profit, that's like a really important thing to like have also. I think that's where a lot of my burnout comes from, but I think that's a lot of like knowing yourself and knowing like why you're burning out. Like, are you not taking care of yourself? Like it could be a few things. Yeah.
So this is more like me wanted, maybe if you could give me some advice on something that I struggle a lot with, which is brushes and keeping like a good, clean and like kind of like organized maybe method. Like I think I achieve my results, but sometimes it can be very messy. So I would love to hear like some tips or that you discovered.
Yeah. When I was there, like my grout lines in my basement suite are still like rainbow colored. I'm like not expecting to get my damage deposit back. So like that's kind of like it's just things that you gotta do. There was like paint splattered on the walls still. I don't know, you can be as messy as you want to be, because sometimes I'm so frustrated I'm not making anything. The paint goes like, it's more like such a mood-based thing. Now I kind of have it like honed in a little bit more, where I know what brushes I use. I know I have to like clean them really well, or I'm gonna be spending $40 on a brush, like too much. So I don't know, you can do what you want to do there, but like think about the cost and benefit of like taking care of your brushes. That factors in.
I was about to ask you like the span of your brushes, but like I guess that depends.
Yeah, it's like I use a lot of the 1-inch, just like a flat 1-inch brush for like most of the like work that's not the big brush. I have like a bunch of those, and I have like crappy ones that I just mix with. I have like nice ones that I take care of, and then inevitably they become the crappy ones. And yeah, it's just, you'll find it. You'll find your own thing. Like, yeah.
It's probably, I think everyone has like the rank and file of like, you've been now downgraded to your crappy brush, and then you got like, I don't want to use a good brush, I'm going dollar store brush on this one. I'm gonna find a $4 dollar store brush, and it doesn't matter what happens to that, because I know I've got the same brush over here that's like a lot more. So yeah, it's and then once you get into oil painting, mineral oil. If you ever get lazy, dunk it in mineral oil at the end of the day. It doesn't dry out, you keep your pigment in it, start it up again. Oil painting tip. But acrylics, keep water around, that's all I can say.
Yeah.
Use a brush conditioner, like all the fun stuff.
Yeah, play with materials. Like I was doing stuff with like these like water-based spray paints for a bit, 'cause there's like a spray paint store by my studio. Like it's so fun. Also, the dollar store is your friend. There is like no one knows what I made these out of except for me. I use like Opus brand acrylics. I don't use golden or anything fancy, because like I like the way the Opus, like when you add water to it, it like doesn't separate. like that's all gonna be your own like journey, but like it doesn't need to be the most expensive. Like goodish quality will be easier to work with overall, but like yeah, good old dollar store brush can definitely do ya for a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. We like actually got through an hour. I was like, oh my god, I don't know if I can fill it.
No, awesome. Anyone have anything else? Now's the time. Well, we're going to be spending some time with Tess anyways, but Tess, thank you very much for sharing your project with us. And because we're pretty much ahead of schedule, which is very unlike us. So what I propose is let's take a 10-minute break, and then we'll meet at the front of the hall. So we're going to move down the road. I'm going to need someone who's a disciplinarian, someone who's like keeps us on task, because we have 22 people here, I counted, and we have 2 hours to get through 22 people. You do the math, we're about 4 minutes-ish a crit. That's not a lot of time, but what it does get us to do, take a break, get some caffeine in you, get some blood sugar action going on, and then we'll come back and then we'll just crunch it out, okay? All right, see you in 10. Tess, do you want me to stop this for you?
Oh yeah, thank you.